Hailing from the Jersey Shore and raised as athletes, the Airey Bros have always shared a passion for physical culture, athletic performance, and human optimization, always striving to be the strongest versions of themselves, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Along the way, they've met some pretty amazing humans and have had some pretty epic adventures. The intention of Airey Bros Radio is to showcase these amazing people and the impact that they've had on them, and to share tips, tricks, and hacks so that you can win each day, every day.
You're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Be there or be square, because it's all killer, no filler.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. The whole, it's light that we can't see. And I've been like trying to beat that horse to death. Like, it's light that we can't see, because it is. It's literally the same as light. It's just light we can't see. So it travels at 186,000 miles per second. And it's just like the light that we can see is measured in nanometers if you measured like the size of the waveform. And those nanometers are pretty small. But then there's some light waves that are even a little smaller, a little bigger, still measured in nanometers. We just can't see them because of our eyes. You know, if we had big, giant eyes, we'd see things differently, and, you know, probably wouldn't be able to be blasted by all this stuff. So yeah, that's an interesting means of looking at things. And then when you can look at it that way, then you start to really grasp it. Like, distance is your friend, and like one phone in your pocket is like a big ball of light that you're absorbing that light. But like another phone in your pocket is like two phones of blasting light. Like, someone actually reached out to me recently asking me about, people ask me questions all the time because I've got a lot of Facebook followers. And so I get a lot of questions. And I used to, I don't know what, maybe I'm evolving, because I might have been like more of a little biatch before than I am now. But I used to be annoyed by all people's questions. Now I'm like honored to answer the questions. So recently someone asked me like about cell phones and cell towers or whatever, because they'd gotten sick and they're wondering if the distance, because everyone's like, oh man, how close am I to that cell tower that's down the block or whatever, or a mile away or whatever. Even if they're like 3 miles from it, they're like, Matt, I'm 3 miles from it. And I'm like, good job. And they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, you're far away. Good job. You know, but people don't know. And distance is your friend. And so this one couple, they just got 2 phones. They usually had 1, but then like someone got an extra phone for work or whatever. So they had extra phones in their house and they got sick. And I'm like, yeah, you got more, you know, radiation, more light, or whatever you want to call it. Radiation and light can be synonymous words too, even though it doesn't seem like it. But like, the light from the sun is radiation. We absorb it in our skin. We get suntan, vitamin D, sunburned. We absorb that ish, and we absorb the other stuff too. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean we're not absorbing it. So it's interesting, and everyone should know about it, because we're all around it. We use these things all the time, every day, you know?
Yeah, you know, Matt, you talk about distance being your friend, and I saw recently one of your posts where you were actually driving in your car away from the tower. And I just, you know, I drove across country to get here, but I also just recently went back, did some traveling for spring break through Virginia and stuff. And it seems as if it's almost unavoidable at this point, unless you are like out in the middle of nowhere. It seems, you know, all along 95, even in this small little town, there are several towers, with even the water towers have it here. I mean, are we just, is there any way to avoid this stuff? I mean, I know you talk probably about the brand and the clothing and that sort of stuff in terms of protecting, but, and I know you're in Oregon still, right? So
yes, I am in Oregon. And well, for one, the video that I showed with the distance and the meter, and like I got even a couple miles away from it, and it was still showing that cell tower. Cell towers have on them like panels that are pointed in certain directions.
Okay.
So they're only pointed in the direction that that panel is pointed. So the panel is pointed on the road, down the road to the tower next down the road. So not everybody that's like 1 mile from it is equally impacted, if that makes sense. So getting a meter like turned me into an activist in this realm like overnight. It's like you're all of a sudden like one step above everyone that doesn't have a freaking EMF meter, because you're like, oh man, I can see this. And so there's different types of meters. And even on my website, I made a little blog trying to explain to people the different types of meters and what it means and whatnot. So the really cheap ghetto meters, they only measure one axis, like a linear axis. And so you can't really measure the field because light is like a field. So they're kind of crappy and they don't get good readings and they're not accurate. And you can get a 0 reading, even though there's a lot or whatever. So you got to kind of spend like $100 or $200 if you get a nice meter. But then when you have it, you can see like, oh man, over here, it's really a lot. And over here, it's not, you know what I mean? And that's actually gives you hope, right? That's crazy that it's on the water, that the water tower, that's kind of like, for one, like why, right? Like, because resonance is a thing and water holds resonance, and that makes me very questionable. I question that when I see that. I've seen that a lot. But just because there's cell towers, you know, in your town doesn't mean you're getting like completely blasted by it. And then also when you turn your phone on and connect it to that tower, now you're inviting the signal into your pocket. And so if you turn it on airplane mode or stick it in one of my phone bags or whatever, turn it off or don't use it as much, then you're not getting as much. So we're not all doomed, and there's ways to mitigate and get around it and stuff. And especially having that meter shows, you know, where the hot spots are in town, because there are hot spots and there are places that you don't even get it. And you'd be surprised, like you go behind a brick wall or whatever, or like the juice bar that I like to go to in town, it's right next to a cell tower, but there's no radiation inside because the walls are brick. The newest type of technology is more of like a linear, like shooting the freaking 5G as far as they can get it. But before, it's like a field. So before it was like a Wi-Fi router, 4G kind of thing, and it wasn't the same as what we're explaining. But now that the technology's changed, it's kind of like knowledge and education is your friend, because number one, there's that linear thing, but two, if you just are less with your phone, you're not getting hit with it as much. But the older tech would create like a field, but now it's just like shooting down the street and it's not getting through bricks. And so it's worse in one way, but it's also a little better in another way, because we can avoid it and protect ourselves through knowledge and education, awareness, and all that sort of stuff.
Well, it's interesting you say that too, about just not being so attached to the phone. And as I mentioned, I'm teaching high school now, and the epidemic of cell phone usage amongst teenagers is astronomical. It's scary. We're talking like anywhere from probably 5 to 8 hours a day, if not more, when they're not in school. I'm just talking in school. They're probably on that, accumulating 4, 5, 6 hours.
When are they not next to it? I want to know that.
Yeah, sleeping with it under their pillow and stuff.
It's out of control. Like, I mean, that's maybe a rhetorical question, but I'd like to know. It's pretty, and there's no. I mean, I'd love to offer a curriculum. I mean, there needs to be so much awareness around it. It's just not even funny, especially for the kids. But it's like, I have this level of awareness at my point in my life where I've got a landline, I've got Ethernet, where I don't have to do the Wi-Fi right now on the computer when I do computer stuff. And then also I don't even have a freaking cell phone anymore. So it's like, but that's just me because I got sensitive to it and I've evolved, and I can manage my whole life. I've got all this internet stuff that I do. I've got an internet business. I've got internet platforms, radio shows, and, you know, social media and all that sort of stuff. I don't need wireless radiation. I don't have to have it. And I think the children, they got to learn, man. They got to learn, because they have reproductive organs that are at stake. That's the biggest, well, one of the biggest things. Also, even just today, I put out this mailer with my email list for my website. It says like, happy new moon. Do you know about teen depression and technology? And so I'm doing these blog mailers for education in my email list. And teen depression is a very, very real thing. And I'm sure, I don't know how long you've worked at that high school, but kids commit suicide nowadays way more than they used to. And there's teen depression. Like, I didn't even know the word depression when I was in middle school and stuff like that. You know, when I was young. I mean, I'm becoming kind of an old man, but either way, I mean, not really, I'm joking. But like back when I was a kid, there wasn't this tech either, you know, and that's why I say that, which is fascinating. It's really interesting talking to people and telling stories. And I'm like, yeah, we went to concerts, you know, before the internet, like, because I was in high school before the internet. And that's something actually. But yeah, one thing to segue from the light talk is the phones emit radiation, which to our bodies look like light. Our bodies absorb the light thinking that it's light from the sun or something, that we're going to get vitamin D or whatever. It absorbs it into our skin. We have our endocrine system, our hormonal system that's built into our skin cells and dictated through our circadian rhythm, which is a biological clock set by the light that we absorb. So our bodies absorb this light naturally. And when your body's absorbing the light from the phones, your clocks get thrown off. And then when your biological clock is thrown off, it leads children, especially teens, especially, but people in general, it leads to chemicals in your brain not being produced properly. Right? There's many studies on it. I'm just a dude with a microphone right now, but there's so many studies. It's easily found. I've even got them on my website, actualactivists.com, under the 5G section. So what happens is over time, the person, especially susceptible teens, they're not producing in the middle of the night when they're sleeping. Their brain and body doesn't know that it's the middle of the night and that it's time to produce these happy chemicals like dopamine precursors, serotonin, melatonin, all that sort of stuff that makes you happy. So then the teen, which it's just out of control that there's so many generations before us that never had this. This is so new and no one talks about, like, at your high school, there should be seminars being like, yo, get that Bluetooth out of your head, kids, instead of like everyone just doing it, you know, like it's wild. So the person will slowly get depressed because they don't have the happy chemicals being produced, because they're around the device at hours in the day where they're being told that it's like noon or bright light, but it's like not natural light. It's like midnight or whatever. And their bodies are being thrown off. Their their biological clocks are thrown off their psychological systems. And it's called a circadian rhythm. It's very easy to look up. And just like getting that phone out of the bedroom at night, which no teenager needs to be plugged in at the middle of the night. I mean, I'm sorry, nobody needs to be plugged in the middle of the night. They don't. Like every adult that I say it to, they're like, well, what if there's an emergency? It's like, yeah, you're so important. I know someone's going to call you one day, you know, like stoke your ego every day and radiate yourself every night, because one day maybe someone's going to call you and say, Johnny broke their effing ankle. No one's going to call you in the middle of the night. You're not important. Get over yourself. Just saying. Like everyone's excuse is, what if there's an emergency? That phone's going to ring one night and I'm going to, what? You're going to answer it for your child? Your children are grown up. Like people don't need that phone next to their bed, but they have it as their little security blanket. And I get it. Yeah, I get it. You're like, yeah, you're important. I get it. Your ego wants to know that there's this line of people right there in the contact list and they could call you at any moment because you're special. But maybe if you turn it off, you'll live longer and be special for longer. Imagine that. Just saying. So yeah, the teen thing is a real deal. And as they're developing their developmental organs, especially the reproductive organs, they shouldn't be being hit with this radiation because they're not going to develop properly. And then I think there's going to be a whole generation of kids exposed to 5G, and they get to of age and they're going to be sterile. I hate to say that even out loud, but I think it's fact.
Well, Matt, respect first and foremost for getting rid of the cell phone and just kind of breaking down your life for everyone of how you've minimalized the technology. And I appreciate the information you put out there, and Rich hipping me to some of the stuff you put out there too. Cause you know, prior to you coming on the first time, I mean, I wasn't hip to a lot of this. And now I feel if I have the Bluetooth headphones or the phone in the pocket too long, I feel it. And you mentioned seeing the stuff on the water towers and that being like, ooh, that's not good for the water. And to us, yeah, that's definitely going to affect the water. But if you have these conversations with people, they're not sensitive to this stuff yet, and it's part of their life, and it's kind of hard for them to remove themselves from it. And you also mentioned the couple getting the second cell phone and them getting sick. So how can we kind of get people aware to these sensitivities that they might not even feel, and maybe kind of turn that light on to when they're around this stuff, what they're taking in?
Well, that's a great question. It's like, why do you eat healthy sometimes? Do you feel it immediately? You know, maybe not. Maybe you just know that it's good for you. You know what I mean? If you look in the phone manual or whatever, that, you know, instructions when you get it, it says don't hold it to your head. There's maybe it's just like, are you willing to educate yourself? If so, there's documentaries. There's a documentary called Resonance, British documentary. It's really great. They put a wireless phone, like a home wireless phone, inside a beehive, and the bees can't find the hive anymore because they work on like electromagnetics. And if it can throw off the bees that much that none of the bees could come back when there's a phone next to their hive, it's like, oh wow, interesting, you know, that's impacting them, maybe it impacts me. There's also a movie called Generation Zapped. You know, if people start to open their minds and hearts to the information, then it could be well received. It's like, there's all sorts of things like different additives to food or sugars, you know, like why not to eat high fructose corn syrup? Because it's bad for you, right? Why shouldn't I hold my phone to my head for an hour? Because John McCain, he got a tumor right where he held his phone, and he got that tumor removed, and he was very vocal about his phone being the cause of it, and same spot and all that. Got another tumor, he died from brain cancer. He said it was from his phone. It's worth thinking about. And in this kind of situation, less is more. I mean, we all know that we don't spend enough time in nature anymore. Oh, let's talk about this. It's a basketball court in my town. A few years ago, I live in Ashland, Oregon. It's a city in southern Oregon on the Northern California border, Oregon border. So I'm in Ashland. It's a pretty interesting agenda town, actually, for so many reasons. But one thing that's been out of control, fascinating for me, is my basketball court that I love to go. My basketball court is my church. I play basketball there, you know, and I make friends and, you know, kick ass. And then, but I'm really not that good. I'm just pretending. So, but I love playing alone because I'm really good when I'm alone. So I'm just kidding, but I'm all right. I challenge anybody to come play. I'm actually going to make a little video, like challenging New World Order and George W. Bush and shit to like come play, you know, I think it'd be funny. But anyways, a few years ago, I'm not even kidding you guys. A few years ago, I would have to sit and wait to play because there are so many people on the court. Now, beautiful day in the spring. It's April right now, mid-April. Beautiful freaking spring days. I go there. Nobody is there anymore. 0 people. I'm playing alone. Joking about playing alone. I want to play with other people. Where is everybody gone? All the children, all the adults, they're all brainwashed. First, COVID was like, you're afraid of everyone. Then they were like, oh, get on the video games, play inside. You're a hero for being inside on your video games. Then they were like, oh, you're free, little birdie. The birdie doesn't want to go anywhere anymore. The food's in the house. The birdie's scared. The bird never left its cage. The cage got open. The bird just sat at home still. And the parents are like, oh, you just want to play on your iPad, kiddo? It's like, yeah, they're addicted to it, you bad parent. So now, sorry to be like that, but for real. So now the playground is empty, or at least my basketball court is empty. And it's like, there used to be kids and there used to be teenagers and even adults. And I don't know why the adults are, I mean, I get what happened to the kids. I know what happened to the kids. The kids got preyed upon by the agenda, and the agenda 2030, transhumanism, smart city, whatever agenda, is get everybody on tech and then start this whole like avatar nonsense. Have you guys seen the movie Surrogates with Bruce Willis? I just watched this the other day. Have you seen it?
No.
like everybody is at home and sends out like their clone, and they're like VR in their clone around because they're afraid to take their own body out into the world. And so there's like or they could even be someone else or whatever. Sometimes it's like a fat dude at home and he's like managing a chick in the real world or whatever. But it's like everybody in the real world is like an avatar, and everyone's at home because that's like the agenda, is to keep everyone freaking afraid of everybody. And then the renegade, like outcasts, racist, like crazy people are the ones that are owning their humanity and trying to like not do that robotic nonsense. But yeah, it's like Agenda 2050. That's what I'm getting at. That weird movie surrogates. And you guys are I thought you were film majors, right? You guys still film majors?
I am, yeah. I'm graduating in May. Yeah.
Sweet. So yeah, I love these, not love, but I like to decipher these dystopian movies. Oh man, now I'm on a tangent. I just have to tell you, I watched the movie Back to the Future the other day, and I can't even share this with anybody in my real world. Just about, like, I got a couple friends that are deep into the conspiracy stuff, but the first Back to the Future from like the 80s, they totally disclosed 9/11, and like they totally have like these twin tower things smoking with the mall, and then it's inverted 9/11 the time, and then the Arabs come right after, Arab terrorists come right after to like take the plutonium or whatever. And it's like, it's so not coincidence. Like if you know statistics or math or whatever, it's very, very real that they did some witchcraft weird disclosure of 9/11 in that movie, like 20 years before 9/11 or whatever, 15 years before 9/11. Out of control. That if you can grasp all that, they are so evil and like planted, and everything is such programming. The movies, every single movie, if you pick it apart, it's like chemtrail programming, breaking down the family unit programming, like New World Order, weird clone, something. There's so much programming in every single movie. Like every movie has it. I don't think it can get through Hollywood anymore without having it in it. It's just, especially Disney and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'm on a tangent, but thanks for listening.
Well, kind of keeping you on that tangent, mentioning kind of watching stuff to sift through that and see what they're talking about or what they were kind of alluding to. Do you have any books that you like, kind of same kind of dystopian type? Oh, that's what they're talking about there, or hipped you to anything like that?
Yeah. So right when yes, exactly. When COVID happened, which you guys got my point on the basketball courts. It's a new world we're in. And the parents don't realize that the kids are addicted to that screen. They're addicted to the screen. The screen actually flickers and puts you in a trance. And the children's minds and eyes are not used to it. They're addicted to that screen flickering trance. They're also addicted to the blue light. So they're addicted to the type of light coming off the device and the flickering. And they're addicted to the radiation coming off of the device. They're addicted to 3 things. And you're just like, oh, you don't want to play outside? That's weird. It's like, because they're freaking addicts. They're addicts now, because of the bad parenting and the technology and all this sort of stuff. So right when COVID happened, I realized like, whoa, what a weird world where the libraries are shut, the bookstores are shut. And like my only access to any books, and I was living with some children at the time, our only access to information of any sort was like thinking of it on our own and going on Amazon and like buying something, but we couldn't like go browse anything anymore. So that kind of limited our free will. It limited our ability to access information, our access to information. And so I started kind of wigging out about that whole book thing. And I invested in a lot of books. I bought like every book I could find that was conspiratorial or anything like that. I actually challenge anybody to have a better book library than I. And so I do have books that are fiction or whatever, right? Not true, fiction, yeah. And so the ones that are especially poignant, Handmaid's Tale. In Handmaid's Tale, like no one can reproduce. Why can they not reproduce? I think it's because of kind of like a 5G agenda, where the 5G, the thing about that is we're absorbing this radiation. We don't really know what it's really doing. But one thing about it is this size of the radiation that's hitting us, it's about let's just say it's like 2 millimeters in size. So that's just the width of 2 pennies. So that's going to be impacting things that are that size. I'm not that size. Are you that size? No. But guess what is? Fetuses and little spermies and stuff like that, and ovaries and stuff like that. So when those little things that are that size are developing, you get it when I'm going with this? When they're developing and then they get to of age, they might not work anymore. And so this dystopian Handmaid's Tale, and now it's a series on Netflix and a movie, freaking weird movie. The book is also all right. It's good. So along with that, I really wanted to talk about Blade Runner. They did a third one. A third one after. So they did the book and then they did the movie with Harrison Ford, which was awesome. Everyone should see it. And then they did a newer one. And the newer one is so mind control about the protagonist. He's in love with his AI housewife. And then he gets enough money to get her like a pass so she can come out into the real world or whatever. The little hologram, and like maybe if they get enough money, the hologram can get a body and then the AI personality's in the body. But it's all this like, preservation of consciousness. It's like, oh, I want to get my consciousness, my life, whatever, even my consciousness, and digitize it. Like Deepak Chopra and all these sellouts are saying, oh, just digitize it and then you can put it in a clone version of yourself. So that's like the weird dystopian reality that they want, is no one can reproduce. So they're so afraid of death because, the human race, oh, I've got to preserve it by living forever. So my ego can be stoked forever because I'm so scared of everything. And then, because people are so afraid of dying because they don't get it, they don't get anything. Sorry to say that, but people are so afraid of the truth, then they're afraid of everything, then they're afraid of death, and they'll be feared into just about anything, including digitizing their consciousness and putting it into a little cyborg and getting shot up to freaking Mars or whatever with Elon Musk and all those idiots. But it's not real, So the movie Blade Runner, the most recent one, was out of control. The book is interesting, and what they talk about in that movie is right where I live, the Oregon California border. It's like this no-go zone dystopia in the movie and in the book. And right now there's like this big bullseye on this region. There's this river, the Klamath River, and it's got 5 hydrological dams on it, and the dams regulate the water so that the farmers can get all these green agenda is getting all psycho over here. And they're saying that they're pulling out 5 hydro dams, which make these 5 reservoirs that manage all the irrigation for all the farms. These things have been in place for decades, like 50 years. And all of a sudden the Biden administration is saying, no, we got to save the wilderness. We got to rewild this area where all these humans live, yo. They're going to rewild it. It's like, we live here, bro. Like, what do you mean rewild? What does that mean to you? That means push the humans off the land. So there's this new fire map thing came out where there's like red zones. And if you live in the red zone, it's a fire prone zone and you're not allowed to live there anymore unless your trees are 6 feet apart and all these stupid rules that don't make sense. And this just came out. And so people aren't, it's like all Agenda 2030. Like there's like, you're not allowed to live there. You're not allowed to build there. We're not going to give you homeowners insurance. We're going to give you these fines because you're in a fire hazard zone now because, global warming and stuff. Which leads me to quickly talking about the 15-minute city. So I'm making a sequel to my movie, Frankenskies. Please, if you haven't seen it, Frankenskies is on frankenskies.com, frankenskiesthemovie.com as well. It's all over the internet and such. And it's a historical chronological timeline of weather modification history. Starts off in the 1920s, gets us to modern day, where it's common practice to engineer the weather, but not many people know about it. The sequel, Frankenskies 2, Climate Chains, like shackles, climate chains. I'm going to be going to London and protesting this 15-minute city nonsense that's getting put together. And the 15-minute cities that are being sold to the world, along with these low traffic neighborhoods, they're called LTNs. LTNs are basically 15-minute cities. 15-minute cities are a slippery slope to smart cities which are like this transhumanism agenda 2030 agenda where everyone's in these tight cities, and it's like the Blade Runner thing. So in Blade Runner, there's these smart, big mega cities, and then everywhere else is like a no-go zone where it's scary and everyone kills each other and don't go there. And so when you live in the mega city, everything's like robotic, and there's like, 5G, 8G, million G, and everyone's like transhumaned out. And really the trans agenda leads to transhumanism. So anytime anybody's like pushing trans, it's really like a slippery slope to transhumanism. Just saying, just FYI, that's what that whole thing is. And transhumanism is this attempt to push to get all the people in these mega cities to be part transhuman. Okay, where Elon Musk and everybody has been like, oh, get your Bluetooth and put it in your head because everyone's cool, like the iPhone 50 or whatever, like in 20 years or whatever. Especially when people can't reproduce and everyone starts becoming robotic, right? It's like, oh, if you can't reproduce, then you got to live a lot longer, and we can help you with that. And you can transfer your consciousness to a cyborg, half human version of you, and keep on living, and don't worry. And that's a new thing. So when that happens, there's going to be mega cities. And that what they want, the end game of this whole good versus evil war on consciousness, which is displayed in these books and movies. I'm pointing to my bookshelf. Blade Runner especially, just wow with that, because in Blade Runner, it's side by side the humans, and can you tell whether or not they're human or not? And that's like the whole plot of the story. He's like so trained that he can find if they're cyborgs or not, and everyone should watch that movie because it discloses some of what they want to do with the agenda. And so really quick, at the end of what they want is singularity. This will be the thing that they start to push. And singularity, and I don't know if everyone knows this, that Elon Musk is just like a wolf in sheep's clothing, but singularity will be probably pushed by Elon Musk and his children and his offspring, whatever. He's got a freaking weird child out there. And singularity is basically they'll push that everyone gets to become, I'm going to say what they're going to say, but this is not fact at all. They're going to say, become godlike by knowing everything, being connected to everyone and everything. And people will buy it. They will buy this nonsense. And if you've seen Star Trek and the Borg and that nonsense, it's like that. And so everyone gets to experience everything together, and we're all gods together, which is BS. We're gods right now. That's digitization of gods, and that's an abomination. It's bad news, and no one should do that. We should stop living in fear, man. When you die, your soul goes on. Like, give me a break with all this stuff. People need to not buy that agenda, but I think some people will, and there'll be a split in consciousness, split in humanity. We shall see. But I answered that question in the lengthy version, but that's my answer.
Thank you.
I think it was Peter Tosh that said everyone wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
Nice. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy. You're talking about the dystopian books and that sort of stuff, and you look through educational curriculum, and there's so many dystopian books that we had to read, even from elementary school with The Giver. And then you have things like Brave New World and 1984, and the list goes on and on. There's a ton of dystopian books that are a part of school curriculum.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Crazy when you stop and think about it. You go through the catalog and
Lord of the Flies.
Yep.
Yeah, and as I've started to dig recently, I don't know why over this last summer, well, we had these forest fires, and so it was really smoky. But I just started watching movies like it was a research project, like especially these old dystopian ones. Have y'all seen Zardoz?
No.
Zardoz is classic. Old Sean Connery, dystopian future. There's like they worship this giant head that floats in the sky, and the head comes and barfs out guns to them, and then they all like kill each other. It's Zardoz, Zardoz, must see. So these dystopian, or let's just call them future movies. These future movies, Idiocracy, whatever you want it to be, almost 100% of them are dystopian. There's no future that they show that's not horrible. And I get it, they want to sell it or whatever, but surely it's a programming. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, Demolition Man, the people that are fighting for freedom are like in the underground, and it's just like, and Demolition Man actually, which is fascinating, Schwarzenegger library before he was even a politician. And in that movie, they say, oh, well, we had to do a big cleanup after the big quake. So there was a big quake in California, and there was like this RoboCop dystopia. So technology had to prevail with like machines, and because of the dystopia, because of the big quake, and then they emerged from it with this new world order. And that's Demolition Man. And so it's like, if you see how powerful we are as conscious creators, and then you see all this stuff that they're shoving down our throats, it's like it seems like they're conditioning us to create a dystopian reality, or at least condition us to be okay with anything short of that. So if we end up with a hellish future, we're like, oh, I kind of saw this coming, right? And we don't really fight it or try to dismantle it or create our own reality, which I think that's the game right now. The game right now is, the agenda is slow and steady. I was talking to a friend about this earlier, and it's slow enough that like if people really want to bucket and they want to like fight the system, they move to Florida. That's where we're at right now. Okay. So I'm like, oh yeah, way to be revolutionary. Move to Florida. Okay. So now there's all these random people living in Florida. There's no community. There's no like, I've lived here on this land forever, whatever. There's like people just like move to Florida because that's where you can, find freedom, and that's where people aren't wearing masks, and that's where you can like, raise your family or whatever. But it's like, that to me is just a bait and switch, man. They're going to put that thing underwater, and then what are you going to do? So it's like, or whatever's going to happen. I'm sorry. If you live in Florida, God bless you. But it's like, it seems like that just, they know how we're going to react. And they know that if they just play the slow game, that we're not going to step up and build our own reality, which is we people with open minds and hearts and whatever, we need to unify, organize, whatever you want to call it, or just consciously project, not just consciously project, but we need to come together and create our own reality, right? We need to see the writing on the wall and be like, okay, 20 years from now, they're going to have smart cities. Why don't we collectively do this cooperative, whatever, slowly create our, okay, like for example, who is coming up with a solution to this digital dollar? And what's going to happen? We're going to have a digital dollar where we have a QR code tattooed to our, whatever. Like, okay, I'm not going to play the digital dollar game, or I'm going to try not to. I mean, I'd like to not. I mean, I hope I won't. You know what I mean? So they know if they slowly, and then drop the hammer, we're not going to have some sort of like alternative currency set up because we're over here la-ti-da moving to Florida or not. We're not setting up alternative currencies because they didn't pressure us enough to do so. You know what I mean? So that's why in these dystopian movies, it's just the dystopia. There's not like a parallel world where there's like, oh, you can go over there or that. No, it's just like chaos or the smart city Demolition Man or, whatever city it's going to be. So, or I mean, Judge Dredd is what I was reaching for. There's a few. So anyways, my point is we have to see the writing on the wall. I started thinking and talking locally where I live. There's a lot of farmers, a lot of different cool, like-minded people that didn't split and move to Florida, even though a lot of people did. Oh, where I live, it's very fascinating. So I live in a cannabis-centric region where a lot of weed is grown. And the price, because the government let the Mexican mafia and other cartels move in, this was a strategic thing. They let the cartels move in so that they could plummet weed prices. So a price of a pound of cannabis used to be like $1,200, $1,300. And then in just a matter of a couple of years, now it's like $200. So they bankrupted all the small farmers because the cartels like flooded the market. They did this knowingly. They knew this is how they're going to fight the small farmers, by letting the market get flooded. So they flooded the market. And then everyone here that was like rogue and like killing it and like, they're just like, oh, shoot, I'm going to move to Florida and retire because the market's over. So they were able to like disrupt this region. But still, there's still a lot of people, old timers, people that weren't just growers in that industry, or people that already got out, or people that are braving it, whatever it is, there's still a lot of people here. And when the system does fall, it's going to be a great place to be. So in that light, I'm starting to set up a rogue currency, right? So like, I'm trying to practice what I preach. So when the shoe does drop and there's no dollar anymore and it's digital and whatever hoops they're making people jump through and all that, I want to have a localized currency of our own so we can do a barter of goods and all this. So I started to grasp that. There's been like the Ithaca hours, and there's been other ones that have popped up and not really worked so well, and however it is, and there's worries about counterfeiting and who's on the same page or whatever. And I realized that it just has to be a kind of a tight-knit ledger system. So who's got what, who's willing to invest their like sweat equity or whatever they've got, you know, and get in on it with like equity and like buy into it. And then it's got like, basically everybody has to be on a ledger and everyone has to know who's got what. It's got to all be transparent. It's like, hey, I've got 20 units because I put in, you know, that much wood or whatever I did for the system. Now I've got 20 units. I mean, not for the system, but for this person that had. Either way, if there's a ledger system and it's all accounted for, people can transact under trust because they know, well, he gave them that and then I gave them that. You know what I mean? Like if it's a tight knit system, it can get kind of big and still work. I'm trying to figure out a way for that. Also, schools and ways of transacting food without the system, because we saw what happened during COVID. What if there's a much more drastic thing like that? What I'm saying is a complete alternate society needs to form. It's not going to happen overnight. And the powers that be know if they play the slow game that it won't happen at all. Right. So I watch these dystopian movies, but as research, and I'm trying to figure out a way to like, you know, like the 15-minute city thing, they say, if you can't do anything within 15 minutes, we're putting up like roadblocks and all this stuff. And they're making these little tight knit zones. And so people are trying to buck that. And they're like taking down the cameras and trying to maneuver, but the cameras have like retinal scanning and they're tracking you, right? So my company, Spero EMF Protective Clothing, I made this hood in response to that. It's a mesh face hood that the AI can't see your eyes through, but you can see. And the 5G can't get into your dome piece, but you can like maneuver the world. And I know that these futuristic surveillance will have bio tracking and other things, and my silver clothing will protect from that. So I am trying to find a way to be that light in that activist space and kind of like predict what's going on and be like an alternative to enslavement. Kind of what I mean is we need people, innovators, and I'm trying to be innovative with what I've got. And everyone has what they have. And even if you've just got like a child, teach it well and take the iPad out of the lap. If, you know, you can start a company that does something and helps the world or, you know, for this new futuristic society, like we've got to realize that we have to play our part basically. And it's going to be slow. And that's what they know, that we're not beings of slow, because we go to the movies and so much stuff happens in an hour and a half. And then we get out and we're like, don't worry, Superman will save the day. And no, Superman's not going to save the day. We have to save ourselves slowly but surely.
Matt, I appreciate the message and you spreading your light and shedding light on this information so people like us can kind of, oh, what's he talking about? Let me look into that. Let me look into that. And then the next thing you know, you go down these different paths. And I think that's how the spark starts. And I think talking about creating those communities prior to needing to create those communities is kind of, 2020, there's a good thing that came out of it. It kind of taught us, hey, we need to be prepared because this can happen, right? We never experienced anything like that before. So I appreciate your perspective. I look forward to seeing the sequel about the smart cities and all the information, and also you helping the activists be activists, making clothing so they can protect their eyes. My man, Richie Rich, before we get into rapid fire, do you have anything for Matt?
It's another thing. It's like the 5G towers where, you think you're moving someplace kind of remote, and then it's a beautiful day, and then the next thing you know, there's tic-tac-toe boards in the sky, and then by the end of the day, it's raining or it's gloomy and gray. And yeah, I mean, we could talk forever about that stuff.
The chemtrails are everywhere, really, and it's an opportunity for everyone to wake up, is what I see it as, and that's one of the ones that they're really worried about. Whenever I host a conference, it seems to get so much flack and attention, and the attempt to dismantle it is so fierce. I know that they don't want the people spreading it, and it's so psychological, right? So you try to tell someone about it and they're like, you're crazy, and then you realize, oh man, I can't tell anyone about it, and then you keep your mouth shut, and that's not what you need to do. You need to figure out a way to tell them about it in your own way, meet them at their level. So it's an opportunity for us to all, meet them at their level and find a way to tell the truth to the people, because they deserve it. But yeah, the chemtrails are everywhere. It's a B, but we're getting there. A lot of people are waking up to it, but also they're normalizing it and saying, hey, we gotta geoengineer to save y'all. So it's a tricky one, because they're trying to say that we need it, and so then when people realize what it is, then they really look it up. It's like, oh wait, it's hard. So awareness and knowledge is that much more important at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, I always say to people, since the last time you came on, go watch sunrise and sunset for a week and tell me they're not doing something with the weather, and that there's not a reason that they're trying to block the sun, especially during those times when we need it the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that orange light is especially poignant, and it helps get your biorhythm on point. And well, you know what I've been doing recently? I'll even sleep next to it. Beeswax candles. I can't stress it enough. Sleep next to the beeswax candle, hang out with it. That light really helps, especially as they're trying to block that other light. They can't block that one, so try to dig it. I like it a lot.
Matt, the last time you were on, you talked about some of the minerals you take. What are you taking these days?
Great question. So whenever you talk about chemtrails and all that stuff, it puts people into a fear-based space. Fear-based frequency comes out of feeling hopeless, feeling like you're a victim to something, feeling like you don't know what you can do. Like, oh, well, the planes are 30,000 feet in the air and they're spraying roofs. What can I do? Who can I talk to? Who do I call? What do I do? I don't even have a rocket launcher. So what you can do is be mineralized. When you are mineral deficient, say you have a deficiency and you don't have enough minerals in your body's trying to absorb those minerals, trying to get it from whatever it can get. So you eat a banana, it's trying to get those minerals that you need, but maybe it's not getting the manganese from the banana or whatever, because there's a lot of minerals that we need. Our bodies want and burn through 104 different minerals each day. So we're like minerals like magnesium and blah, 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 zinc and stuff. So the 104, I can't even rattle off 104. There's a lot of them. So each day our body, if it doesn't get those 104 minerals, it's running a little deficient. Then there's our environment, which is slightly toxic. And then we've got tap water. We're taking a shower with it. It's got some crap in it. And then the chemtrails, air is crappy, and maybe we eat some crappy food or whatever. And if our bodies were up to speed on the minerals, if our bodies were not mineral deficient, we wouldn't be trying to absorb minerals as bad. We wouldn't be trying to absorb minerals at all, because we'd be up to speed on our minerals, okay? But while we're running mineral deficient, we're trying to get these minerals, and then we have an environment that we're in, and so our bodies start to absorb stuff even from the air. So they spray something in the air like radioactive cadmium or zinc cadmium sulfide or whatever, something bad. Okay. Our body might absorb it thinking that it's calcium, or something like that. And then it absorbs that toxic element into our bones in our body. Whereas if we had taken the right supplement that day, we might not even absorb it at all, because we're not deficient. Hope I explained that. Did I explain that very well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I take these supplements, and it's important that they're plant-based, because here's how things work. you give minerals to the soil breaks it down, like rocks and stuff, whatever, like minerals, like sea salt is full of minerals. You put the minerals in the soil slowly breaks it down through the natural processes, and then the plants absorb the minerals. Then the plants are mineral rich, and then the plants produce fruit, squash and stuff, and now you got mineral rich food, mineral rich corn, mineral rich hay, whatever. You feed that to the animals, you feed that to the humans. Now the animals are mineral rich, the humans are mineral rich, the humans can eat the animals as well, they're mineral rich. So you can't really easily absorb minerals that are the rocks. So like sea salt, or Himalayan sea salt and all that sort of stuff, or minerals in general that are not plant-based, it's not going to be bioavailable, easily absorbed into your body. But plant-based minerals like broccoli, you eat the broccoli, you get the minerals that are in the broccoli because your body knows how to absorb the plants. So that's really key, because you can be taking minerals that are just rocks, like zeolite is like a rock, for instance, and so is diatomaceous earth, and oh no, those are diatoms, but they're basically fossilized rock, whatever. So they're little fossilized ancient sea creatures, but they're rock now, they're fossilized. So it's important to understand that bioavailability is based on plant, being from a plant. So what I take every day is sea moss pills, because it's ground up sea moss. And in the pills also is bladderwrack, which is another seaweed, and burdock, which is a root. And those three things together, bladderwrack, burdock, and sea moss, I didn't come up with this. This is the blend that they always sell, because it has all 104 minerals that we need on a daily basis. One of those minerals is einsteinium. I've never heard of that, but it's in there. And it's one of the minerals that we need on a daily basis. So I go on Amazon and there's a bunch of options, and I've taken like 5 different brands and they all seem fine. So don't ask me, please. Just go on Amazon and get the organic one. Wild crafted is cool. I'm not trying to be rude, but everyone asks, and I'll happily send you a screenshot, but you can do this on your own. Wild crafted organic sea moss with bladderwrack and burdock, but a lot of them will just come up with the bladderwrack and burdock in it, because the sea moss on its own does not have iron, for instance, and the sea moss on its own only has like 90 minerals or 80. And so you get the bladderwrack and burdock, and you got in the sea moss, and now you have all 104 bioavailable minerals that you need on a daily basis. Drink it with a lot of water. It's seaweed dried up, so it's it'll dry you out. If you're ever congested or think you're coming down with something, you can take this and it'll help with the inflammation in your body, relieve and eat up mucus in your body, relieve congestion. It gives me energy, stamina. Like the minerals are something else. They've actually changed my life. When I had a incident where I broke my arm really, really bad. And so I had to get surgery, and they gave me fentanyl in the hospital and freaking all these opiates in the hospital and surgery, and got out of the hospital, and I couldn't even absorb minerals because of all the pharmaceuticals I had taken. So I was like, I would eat pretty well and do push-ups, and like I couldn't even put on any freaking, like I was not putting on the muscle from the push-ups, and I was just like frail. And I read up on like pharmaceuticals and opiates and stuff, and they can disrupt your body's ability to uptake minerals. So I was like, oh man, maybe I'm not uptaking minerals. Maybe I'm like super deficient or something. I'm not because you got different receptors uptaking them as minerals. And if you've totally depleted them and then you're not getting those minerals, you're so deficient. Your body's like running not on all 8 cylinders or whatever. It's just not running properly. So I started taking these sea moss pills, and my life changed, you guys. And honestly, I'm kicking caffeine. I got rid of I know we talked about this last time, a long time ago. I was like, I'm getting coffee out of my life. Came back and forth, back and forth. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm actually kicking caffeine, and I take the sea moss pills. They give me energy. They give me so much energy. So I love them, and I don't sell it. I'm just telling you, and that's another long explanation. But I can't just like say the pills, because it doesn't make sense. It has to be plant-based, bioavailable. And I think it'll change your life if you really give it the chance. Even being around EMF, it depletes zinc. and then that leads to problems. And this helps just like alleviate your EMF symptoms. If you've heard everything I said and you still want to be around your phone day and night, just take some minerals. Even it'll help your situation.
Thanks for sharing that, Matt, and thanks all your knowledge. I'm definitely gonna check that out. I've definitely taken the sea moss before, but it's not in my life, and I'm trying to add those minerals and all that stuff slowly into my life, time by time. But I know you just said you're not doing caffeine, and that was gonna be the first rapid fire question I had for you is, are you a coffee drinker? So are you doing anything to kind of help you wean off the caffeine?
Yerba mate is amazing. And yerba mate, if you've never had a strong batch, it'll be like, boom, I don't need coffee. Everything you get a tolerance to. So like have a yerba mate for a few days and then have the coffee and you'll be like, dang, the coffee feels a lot different. Have yerba mate for a week and then have the coffee and you might be like, dang, I don't really like the way this coffee makes me feel because of the way that it stresses your adrenals compared to the yerba mate. Yerba mate has all these other phytochemo, whatever chemicals in it. It's got like 4 other chemicals in it that aren't just caffeine that make your brain do things happy. So it's cool to try out. Also, matcha lattes, green tea. If you get the matcha, the powder, like organic, and it's bitter, and you figure out a way to freak it, like just figure it out, then you'll be in love. But it's hard. So you can go to the store, you can go to like this coffee shop and get a matcha latte.
How do you do it? Do you have any suggestions how to freak it out?
Yeah, and Rich, I'm sorry you don't get to go to your coffee shop anymore. I know you like that spot. You had some nice people over there. I remember that. Yes. Yeah. So vanilla extract and like I like to do cashew milk because there's a place local that makes it, but some like cool milk, like whipped with to make the latte. So like some warm milk, honey, or maple syrup, actually. Maple syrup, vanilla extract, and then the milk, and then cinnamon and cardamom powder. So that's like out of control, bro. And that's just me right now. And I'm not like, whatever. I'm not that fruity, but with that drink, I kind of just have been experimenting with it. And this place locally actually puts drop of orange, freaking the orange essential oil in it and makes it orangey. But the cardamom makes it fire if you put a lot of cardamom in there. Some people do cayenne powder and stuff, but yeah, that you can get used to. And then if you're doing a matcha latte, and then you're doing like a yerba mate, which you can whip with cream too, like coconut milk, my buddy does, and honey. If you're doing that and then just doing the coffee not so regularly, that's a nice way to see what the coffee really does to you. Because people that regularly drink coffee, you know what I mean. You don't even know what that does to you. You're just getting a little feeling of it compared to like if you weren't drinking it, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's an interesting way. And another thing really quick about coffee is it was an amazing, and maybe it's just the place I'm in my life. I'm 42 years old. I've been very, introspective or self-analyzing. Like I've been able to really witness myself recently on the coffee. So if I drink coffee for like a week, it's different than if I drink coffee for like a few days. Like after about 2 weeks, I'm kind of like not, unless I go to different coffee shops. If I go to the same one after 2 weeks, I'm just maintaining and I'm not really like feeling it as awesome as it was. But also there's this thing that happens where I start to become agitated. And it's like, I see it in traffic. I'll be like, yo, get the, what the, and then like, I'm like, people be making me mad on the road. But if I'm not on the coffee, I'm like, whatever, man, And like, so I started like analyzing the way that I react. And there's a difference between being reactive and responsive. Like either you're responding because you're taking something in, you're like, I'm gonna respond this way, or reactive is like, boom, it's like, yo, F you, it's like that's reactive. Reactive, you can react to a girlfriend or whatever and flip when you're on coffee, but on green tea maybe, or no caffeine at all, I've realized that I can be a little bit more grounded and calm. And then I start analyzing myself and see myself differently and being like, okay, well, I'm not going to let this drink own me. And I'd like to have it on the shelf. So if I really needed it, it's there. But I don't want to have it just to maintain my life. I feel like an addict, you know, but I am kind of I do smoke a lot of bud too. So, I mean, I'm no saint.
I hear what you're saying, man. I've gotten pretty gassed up on some mate before, from Argentina, and I'm kind of at that same point where I feel like the coffee is just sort of making me anxious and then also reactive, and my patience sometimes can be a little less than what they need to be when working with high schoolers. So I'm kind of at a crossroads here myself. So I'm thinking of maybe not going cold turkey, but trying to incorporate in getting some mate back in my life. So I appreciate your insight.
You can drink a really strong brew like at 5 p.m. or 8 and still sleep that night. Like you cannot do that with coffee, you know? So
No.
that's something I've noticed as well. It's like, oh, interesting. Like it doesn't really control me as much. And I really think it's interesting to observe yourself, because there's old timers out there. They're doing the same thing they did for 50 years, but we're over here analyzing ourselves. That's something to say about just that. You know, I think it's cool.
Totally, totally. Matt, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Matt Landman?
One thing that I learned about myself recently through getting in my body and like I said, taking the minerals and all that sort of stuff is I don't really like chiropractors. I don't trust hardly anybody, you know, in a white coat. I started doing handstands, and it really forces my body to get aligned, and it starts building strength in muscles that I never used before. Like, you know, you can go to the gym, do your push-ups and sit-ups, but you're doing a handstand, you're using a lot of muscles. So I started doing those. I'm not like standing all the way up because I'm afraid of falling down, but I'm like my knees are bent, you know what I mean? Like handstand. That's been something. It's not daily, but it's often. And then what else do I do on a daily basis? Well, the candlelight's been something that has been so impactful for me, and it's been regular. It's been a regular practice, and it's bringing like this calm into my life, and also like, I don't even know. Like when I'm sleeping next to the candlelight, sometimes I have these trippy dreams, and I feel like that like a past version of myself like hid information in the frequency of the candlelight. The candlelight is it's beeswax candles too, and I don't know. It's been something interesting for me. So that's it, and also trying to like eat. You know, I'll get running around in circles and not like taking care of myself. And it's really important to take care of yourself. I'm realizing like as an adult, it's like sometimes you gotta put yourself to bed and not fall asleep on the couch. And like, you know, sometimes you gotta like be responsible, you know. And recently I've been just trying to eat a good meal, even if I'm not hungry, and be more in my body and like responsible for my body. Like, oh, I need to feel, or not even like I need to feel a certain way, but like, oh, I should be responsible and be grounded. So I'm going to have some meat and potatoes, and not like get to the point where I'm like, oh, I need this because I'm not feeling grounded because I had a lot of coffee and I'm blah, 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 and maybe I should do this. You know, it's like being more preemptive. So I'm like trying my best to take care of my body the best that I can. And those minerals, sea moss every day. That's been huge. So I'll get up in the morning and I'll drink a big glass of water. Oh, coconut oil rinses in my mouth. So we'll talk about that really quick and then I'll be done. So every morning I rinse my mouth with coconut oil, and it pulls heavy metals out of your body, but also it creates a healthy biome in your mouth so that your mouth and your throat biome can connect to your gut. So there's a brain gut connection of a biome of information that talks. And if you start rinsing your mouth with mouthwash and eating food with glyphosate on it and killing your gut biome and killing your mouth biome, it doesn't communicate as properly as it can. And so I've learned a lot about rinsing my mouth with coconut oil. I even removed a big fat cavity from my mouth. I removed it just rinsing my mouth with coconut oil for 3 weeks in the morning, because what it does is it pulls out the bad bacteria, leaves the good bacteria, and the good bacteria eats the bad bacteria and kills and eats away freaking cavities. And dentists won't even, they'll tell you you're crazy, but it's truth. So every morning I get up in the morning, and before I've even woken up, I'm rinsing my mouth with coconut oil. And then ideally I'm doing sit-ups while rinsing my mouth with coconut oil. And then the coconut oil stays in my mouth for even like 20, 30 minutes, And then also I try not to look at the screen first thing. Like if I can get 1 hour in the morning without looking at my computer or, my smartphone, if I had one, which I don't, like without looking at the computer first thing in the morning, my whole day is different. Because like, what am I looking at? Emails that are going to make me reactive, bright blue light. That's like literally, if I get and look at the computer immediately, it makes me want to I have to go poop, because it triggers my whole system. It jump starts my nervous system, the blue light and the screen. Even though I've got a blue light filter on my laptop, I look at the screen for a couple minutes and I have to immediately go to the bathroom. And I've noticed it because I'm being more in tune with my body. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe it's like makes me like I just drank coffee, like I react to the screen. So I'm trying not to look at the screen immediately. Not to mention, like, I don't want to have to deal with some customer complaining or something like that first thing in the morning, or whatever it is, some troll telling me that I can't, contrail, chemtrail, whatever nonsense. So it's just like, know that about yourself. Be like, okay, well, there's like a 1% chance that if I get on Facebook in the morning that I'm going to see something that annoys me. And like, why am I on Facebook first thing in the morning? Because my ego is like, oh, I'm important. Let me see how many likes I got on that post. Look at it later. So it's just like, I'm trying to manage just stuff like that and honor myself so that I can show up for others. That's really it. And that's why I kick coffee, because I'm not trying to snap at people in my life, and I'm trying to be the best version of myself so that I can show up for others and serve humanity and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Matt, there's a
Respect.
lot of stuff you said there that I resonate with. One is the candles. I don't have the beeswax candles, but I burn candles at night, and I also have these lights that are blue light free. And they are, you can just, there's a different type of vibe. What is that?
Melted candle wax.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
So
It's like
but
art.
there's just a therapeutic type feeling you get from that type of light that doesn't have that harsh blue light in it. So I appreciate your perspective on that. And I also can relate to you too with the computer screen in the morning and at night. I'm at the point now where I'm happy this is my last semester of school, because I can't pull those all-nighters off anymore. I get to a point where I'm just like, nope, I'm not turning the computer screen on, or once the sun goes down, I'm usually done with having the lights on. And I just feel the more you become aware and listen to your body, the more you feel stuff like that. So I appreciate you sharing that and all your practices. I know you got into it a little bit. What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
for music, I stumbled upon this greatest hits of Tupac, tuned to 528 hertz. The irony, right?
Was that on YouTube?
Yeah.
All right.
And I was like, that's pretty legit, So I've been blasting that. And there's a song on there that I never heard, which I loved Tupac when I was younger. And the song is Last Man Standing, or Last One Standing, Last Man Standing. And that is on like repeat. I got it waking up. It's in my head. I got to stop listening to it. So I'm letting that go. I did this Native American sweat about 2 months ago. It was very powerful through the Lakota tribe. And I'm reading a book about their struggles and the white man and all that sort of stuff. But it's a really nice book by Wallace Black Elk. He wrote a couple books. Well, the first one is Black Elk Speaks, and that's his grandfather. And then the book he wrote, forget the name of it, but he was the first in the whole of their spiritual wise shaman, of all their people. that was wise and, you know, shaman and leading them. He was the first that said that they had to share their ways with the white man. And he was like, look, the white man's coming and everything we know is going to be lost. So we got to share it with them because they're going to be here. And, you know, and he had these visions and everyone said he was crazy. And he was like, nah, they're coming and we got to share with them our ways or we will lose our ways. And he was right. And it's been really powerful, like reading this book and connecting with this like deep tradition. I guess I'm on where we live is like was native land, and like they have this deep tradition where they pray to like the cardinal directions, you know, like they'll do a whole ceremony and pray to north, east, south, and west, you know, and then each direction will symbolize an element, and it gets really deep, but it's like it's nothing like the culture that I'm used to. And what was fascinating is when the white man first showed up, it was the FBI, and they were scared to death of this culture. They're like, you go into sweat lodges and go into the astral and like pray to spirit and like get results, you know? And they're like, yeah, we have a very deep connection to spirit. And that scared the crap out of the white man. And so they had to just basically kill them all, you know, and it's sad, but I'm learning a lot about that right now. And it's been really fascinating, grounding. And I think that we're all deeply connected through the bond of truth, you know? And so I think that those that are not here kind of like here still in our spirit guides. And just because, you know, we're white people doesn't mean we don't have this like passion and drive to preserve nature and like help. You know, it's really a fight of good and evil is all it is. And we're on the side of good. And that's all that matters, right? And so it's been really interesting to get grounded with that, and my spirit animal or whatever. Anytime I go on a long road trip, there's a red-tailed hawk every time, you know. So I started tripping on that, and I was like, "Is that my animal? Is that my?" And so I start every time I see red-tailed hawk, I'm like, "Sub G," you know. But it could be in my head. But I feel I've always had a deep connection with nature, and now where I'm at, I'm in volcano country, and I'm starting to realize like these volcano tubes, dude, these volcano tubes for miles, those aren't volcano tubes. Those are roots. I think those are roots. And I think those were trees. I'm not crazy. I think those were trees. I think the trees got nuked or something, but like volcano tubes, they go for miles, and then like hot springs are connected to them but the tubes, some of them are like, you can walk through them, and the volcano is not for like 100 miles, and they're circle like, the lava didn't burn a little hole through and go freaking hundreds of miles. It's roots of old trees. It makes a lot more sense. And so as I get grounded and connected to the land, I'm starting to like merge my rabbit holes, and it's become very rewarding and interesting. So yeah, that's what I'm reading. And movies, always watching movies. I don't do shows, but I'm always going and watching a movie because that's my pastime and I'm a film major and stuff like that. I can't really do shows. I don't know. People like to watch all that Netflix, you know. I can't get attached to these people, but that's just me. And aside from that, yeah, just memes, man. Everybody tries to have a conversation with me, and like 5 minutes in, I'm like, I got a meme for that, because I got a meme for like everything someone can talk about, like health things, herbs, or a quote, or love, or, you know. I'm kind of like memed out. You should see my desktop. I got like 20,000 memes and like all these folders to just dump on Instagram and Facebook. Whenever someone says like Mondays are killing me, I'm like, boom, meme for that. It's out of control. So I'm trying to not do that too. I got to stop thinking in memes, because I'm literally like driving down the road and I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be a good meme. And I like jot it down. I'm like, dude, it's all you think about. Because I got 70,000 Facebook followers, right? I'm not going to have those forever. So try to like feed the beast, but to what extent? You know what I mean?
No, your meme game is on point. I love following actual activists on Instagram. It was weird because I think um you you were kind of like shadow banned, whatever you want to call
Yeah,
it.
they
Like, you
turned me
kind
off
of
and then they turned it back on too. It was
you
weird.
disappeared for a while, and somewhere, some way, you pop back up, or maybe Jim and I were just talking about you, and then almost instantly, like that next day, I started seeing your stuff again.
Mm.
And so yeah, I see your stuff, and I always get a kick out of it, and I appreciate your work. So keep doing all that stuff. It makes me laugh. Matt, last one we got for you. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Frozen mangoes. So, oh no, what's even worse than the frozen mangoes is the jar of it's this nut butter. It's cashew pecan. Cashew pecan. Yeah. So it's pecan butter with a little cashew. So it's this like $14 jar, and it's like little, dude. So it's this pecan butter.
Is it Gem Nut Butter? Is that the name of the company?
No, it's
Right.
this Oregon company. So I get this pecan nut butter, and then I smear it all over these frozen mangoes. And it's, I mean, like, it's a $20 freaking snack, and I do it almost every night. It's like, it's too good, you guys. And like, I'll like fall asleep on the couch, and I'll wake up, like, go, and I'll do it right there, like half awake. I'll just pour the butter, $15 little jar, and I'm like, if I was good, I'd make them last like multiple sittings. But the mangoes, once they like thaw out, they're not the same. They just taste weird. So when they're frozen, like almost like unfreezing a little bit with the almond butter, I'll smear it on them or whatever. If I get the almond butter, which is still out here like $20, still expensive, but the almond butter is a bigger jar, so I can not kill it in like one sitting like a fiend. But I've been doing all right. Not no, I'm lying, because actually what I did was so there's that, but then at the store they have these little oat bars, that like a little, like the co-op, my grocery store makes these little like pastry things they're called oat bars. They're like these little strudel crumble things, and I've been adding that to it, this crumble. So my late nights, it used to be bad. I used to like get vanilla ice cream and Chex Mix and freaking all this stuff, but now it's like organic mangoes. And I you know what, I stopped eating bread. That was really big thing for me, and I realized I had this ongoing athlete's foot, not super crazy, but it would pop up here and there for freaking like 10 years. And I'm like, and it was just between my pinky toes, and it was like, it wasn't horrible, like girls don't freak out, but it's like, it was there all the time here and there, like. And then when I stopped eating flour, I just kicked it out of my system to try to give it a shot and see what it would do. I stopped getting that. I stopped getting it. Just gone. Just, like, it, that was what was causing it. It's weird. So I'm not doing flour, at least. But yeah, the frozen mangoes with the nut butter every night, even if it's like 2 a.m. or even if it's that's my guilty pleasure. I mean, I said I smoke a lot of bud, but I think that's good. I think that's all right. And aside from that, I'm pretty good. Yeah. Thanks for asking. You know, I mean, I shouldn't support Amazon, but it's so easy. And I wish I didn't. I like Abe Books. Abe Books is cool. ABE Books and Thrift Books and stuff like that.
Yeah, Thrift Books is good.
But like for my business and boxes and stuff, like one click, Amazon. But I don't like that I do that. So yeah, you guys are awesome.
Work in progress. We're all a work in progress, Matt.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, Matt, you are awesome, and I appreciate your perspective. And I know you said when we hopped on here that, you're struggling a little bit. Just know that your work keeps dudes like us going, and the product that you make, I love it. And anyone who wants to know about the hat that I have on, I let them know. I have one that I sleep with on. So I appreciate all you do and the knowledge that you shared with us today, because I know it's going to be like that last podcast. I'll go back in a year and there's, oh, that makes sense now. That makes sense. So I appreciate the path that you're on and sharing all that you shared. Last thing I got for you, Matt, let the people know who you are, where they can find you, and that they're listening to Airey Bros Radio.
Thank you for having me on.
You are
Always,
the man.
always a pleasure, Matt. You're the man.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys. It's always nice to be real with you guys.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, keep doing you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Until next time.